we got an exciting session this morning. It's part of our 6-part series entitled Principles and Practices of Building Community. And today's session is about supported routines. And I'm Tom Pomerance. I'm going to be sharing with you the skills, the tools that you can use to help people improve the quality of their life. And the main theme is never ever do anything by yourself other than go to the bathroom and smoke a cigarette. And if you don't smoke, don't start. Supported routines. First thing we need to remember, very important, is an institution is not a place. An institution is a state of mind, and I know many of you know that. An institution's not a place. An institution is a state of mind. An institution has to do with how we relate to each other. When you interact with the men and women you support, is there a smile on your face, or are there some among us who always walk around with a frown? Do we use the skills of courtesy? Do we engage in eye contact? And most importantly, do you allow people to be active participants in a life of meaning and value? That's supported routines. Do you allow the people you support to be active in all their daily routines? Getting a life is not a magical process. I wish I were like a magician. You know, magicians have these big boxes with all the props that they use to do their magic. And wouldn't it be wonderful if I had a big box of props and I had a magic wand in that box, or many magic wands, and I could hand them out to everyone in this room, and I had one myself, and we could wave it over our heads and get a life? Unfortunately, getting a life is not a magical process. We all know that. Getting a life is a struggle. And for many of us, we recognize where that struggle is found. The struggle for getting a life is an internal struggle. It is found within us. The truth is, this discussion about supported routines and extending to people an opportunity to be active participants in a life of meaning and value, the truth is, it is more about us than them. Because if any of you came here today because you thought I was going to be talking about people with developmental disabilities or some other form of disabilities, you walked into the wrong room. I don't have any special techniques. I don't have any special methods that you can use to help those people improve the quality of their life. The methods that you and I use to improve the quality of our life, the strategies that we use, our philosophy, our values to enhance the quality of our life is no different than the strategies that we would use to support the people who we are paid to support to enhance the quality of their life. As I talk, it's very easy, I find, for many people to sit in one of these sessions and say to themselves, well, why do I do what I do? Why do I relate the way that I relate? Why do I use the language that I use? It's very easy, perhaps, for some of us to sit here and beat ourselves up. Please don't do that. Remember, we are all good and caring people. We are good and caring people. We are not malevolent. We are not mean-spirited. We are not vitriolic. We are not vindictive. The things that we do because we believe they are right. Every one of us have been taught to do them. Our supervisors see us do them. So as I talk about the strategies for supported routines, don't beat yourself up. I believe we are good and caring people, and the things that we do because of our ignorance. And that's good news. The reason that is good news is there is a cure for ignorance. And the cure for ignorance is knowledge. And that's what we are going to be sharing today. Some strategies for helping people improve the quality of their life through supported routines. That challenge that we just discussed briefly, that internal conflict, it's the difference between seeing ourselves as parents to the individuals we support versus partners. This organization does not hire people to be parents. We have enough mother hens. We are here to be partners to the men and women who we support. It's the conflict between seeing ourselves here to manage the people versus supporting them. We are not here to manage. That's the old model. We are here to support. We are not here to control. We are here to support. It's the conflict between seeing ourselves here to habilitate people versus assisting them in learning and growing and developing and becoming more independent. The issue is not one of habilitation, but it's supporting people in lives of meaning and value. Habilitation, it's not even a word that I use anymore. The men and women who we support are not good fixer-uppers. They are not broken. They do not need to be fixed. What they need is a life of meaning and value where they can grow, develop, and become more independent. The growth is a result of a meaningful life. They are not broken. We need to keep that in mind. And habilitation. Some places that I go to do what is called TV habilitation, where they take a bunch of people, put them in front of a television set, and somehow hopes that that improves the quality of their life. You all know that is tongue-in-cheek, but there is no such thing as TV habilitation. I am not, just so you know, supportive of music therapy. I am not supportive of art therapy. I do not support domestic therapy. I do not support horticultural therapy. I do not support equestrian therapy or pet therapy. It's interesting, I started out in the field of music therapy. I recognize the therapeutic value of music. I recognize unquestionably the therapeutic value of art, the therapeutic value of gardening. I'm an avid gardener. There's a big difference between taking those various modalities, if you will, art and music and gardening, and taking people who we perceive that are broken and somehow using those things on them versus making those modalities part of their life, where art is part of one's life and through it they can grow, develop, and it enriches their life, and music is part of one's life. So it's a different orientation as we look at these various aspects of one's life. It's interesting that frequently I'll go to an agency that has a large greenhouse and they have a therapeutic gardening program. And then I go back to the residences where these people live and find they don't have even one plant in their home. They spend no time in their backyard gardening, if you will. So it's a different orientation. Sometimes when I'm at places, I hear phrases like, "Would you help me make dinner?" This is when I'm in a residence, a group home perhaps. "Would you help me?" This is the staff saying, "Would you help me make dinner? Would you help me make your bed?" That phrase, that statement is very revealing. I know some of you understand the problem with that phrase. Why does the staff need support? When I hear a staff member say, "Would you help me take these materials out of the cabinet?" my response to the staff is, "I didn't know that these people are here to help you. I thought you were here to help them." So the statement is a revealing statement. These are the statements of direct care staff, not direct support professionals. And we don't need direct care staff. We need support professionals. To care for is to do for. That's sympathy. The men and women who we support don't want or need our sympathy. To do with is to care about. That's empathy. Direct care implies the nurturing of learned helplessness and dependency. We need staff that are capable of being teachers, mentors, allies, coaches, trainers, shapers, crafters, molders of lives, not direct care. We are teachers to support people in a life of meaning and value. And in order to support people in a life, and by the way, I've got a question for you. I'm not going to suggest that I have an answer to this question, but it's an important question. We are employed to help people get a life. Here's my question. How do you help people get a life if you don't have one yourself? It's a legitimate question. I'm not suggesting, I'm not so pompous to say that I have an answer. How do you help people get a life if you don't have one yourself? You see, if we're merely hired to provide direct care, and all you have to do is transport somebody from point A to point B, you make their bed, you get their breakfast, you take them to the movies, I don't think one needs a life. But if our job is about helping people form valued relationships with other people that go beyond just the people who they are paid to relate with, that go beyond just their family, that go beyond the people who they receive services and supports with, if our job is to help people have things of value in their life, things, employment, education, spirituality, leisure pursuits, activities, collections, how can we help people make that happen if we're not able to do it for ourselves? A new era has dawned. No more direct care. And in order to provide supported routines, it requires providing others opportunity to participate in their lives' activities. And it necessitates that we give up some control. Remember, I said this is more about us than them. We must be able to give up some control if we are going to emancipate people, allow them to be active participants in a life of meaning and value. You know, I work with many agencies that are engaged in the process of what they call futures planning. They focus upon people's futures. And my question is, how can you have a future if you don't have a presence? All of our futures are based upon our life's activities now and the experiences within our life. I believe we need to be focusing far more effort on helping people have lives of meaning and value currently than focusing on the future. The future is derived from the presence. Supported routines. The definition that I had given you earlier is never ever do anything by yourself other than go to the bathroom and smoke a cigarette. If you don't smoke, it doesn't mean you need to start. Anytime I see a staff member do anything, and I see them doing it by themselves, I'm always going to ask the question is, why are you doing that by yourself? Why did you elect to go to that supply cabinet in that room and unlock it and take items out of that cabinet and bring it over to the table? Why didn't you get somebody who is in that room to go over there with you, regardless of their physical or intellectual limitations? How could you support them to be part of that activity? I walk into a group home, and here's a good example. And there's a staff member walking down the hall with a load of laundry. And I say to her, obviously sort of tongue-in-cheek, oh, they allow you to do your laundry here? And she says, oh, no, Tom, that's not my laundry, it's Sylvia's laundry. Well, why are you doing Sylvia's laundry? And I'm always prepared for the answer. You know, I've noted that people who do a really good job of having a lot of excuses why they don't have a life tend to find a lot of excuses why the people they support don't have one either. So what does she say? Well, Tom, the reason Sylvia can't do her laundry is she uses a wheelchair and she is blind. She has quadriplegia and she can't move her arms, so that's why we do her laundry. Well, every reason that we give why we shouldn't is the justification for doing it. I'm going to say it again. Every reason that we give why we shouldn't is a justification for doing it. If the woman has limited range of motion and can't move her arms, how can she ever improve her range of motion if you don't give her an opportunity to move her arms? If somebody doesn't have a palmar grasp and they can't open their hand, how can they ever improve that ability or skill if you don't take their hand and open it up and put the laundry inside it and teach them to release and let go? Every reason that we give why we shouldn't is the justification for doing it. I walk into a home and I see a staff member standing over a bed making somebody's bed. You know what my question is, right? Gee, did you sleep in that bed? Oh, no, Tom, that's not my bed, that's Billy's bed. Well, why are you making Billy's bed? And here we go. Well, Tom, before I tell you the explanation they give, staff frequently hide behind physician's orders why people don't do things. And the staff says, well, Tom, did you see Billy? He has Down syndrome, and associated with his Down syndrome, he has a serious heart defect. Did you notice that his lips are blue and his fingertips are blue? And we have a doctor's order that said he's not supposed to exert himself. And beside, he recently had a stroke associated with his heart condition as well, and he has severe lethargy on his right side, and he has to use a quad cane in order to get around. Boy, she's got that down to a science. So I said to her, is it okay if I help Billy make his bed? She's more than happy to have me have Billy make his bed because she probably hopes he drops dead on the spot and I get in big trouble for it, right? Hey, Billy, come on over here. I'll help you make your bed, okay? Hey, Billy, here, why don't you sit down in this chair here, okay? That's good. Here, give me the cane. Hey, that dude stands up by itself, doesn't it? Hey, Billy, hold on to this pillow. Got it? I know it's hard to move that arm. Can you bring that arm around? Hold on to the pillow. Now, are you watching me? Keep an eye on me now. I'm going to be bringing the sheet down. Are you watching? I got it. Tuck it in. Man, that's tough to do. Are you sure you're watching me? Keep an eye on me here. I got it. What are we supposed to be looking for? You don't know. Wrinkles. You see any wrinkles on the sheet? You do. Where? There? Here. Come on, reach on over. See if you can get that wrinkle out. I'll help you there. That's good. What do we put down next? The blanket. Oh, that's good. Okay, ready? Here we go. You watch. Now what are you supposed to look for? Wrinkles. You got it. You see any? You don't. Okay. Where does the pillow go? Over there? Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's get that pillow over there. Reach that arm out. Good job. Who just made the bed? Billy. Some people just need a lot of support. You know, We work with people at the level at which they are capable or willing to participate. If that's all Billy could do is sit there with me and observe, think about how important that is. You know, he's improving his ability to visually track. He's improving his auditory attention. And beside, there's something else that's going on when he's here with me. We're bonding. We're forming a valued relationship. Isn't it tragic to think that there are some staff who believe that he would be better off sitting in the living room engaged in body rocking and finger flying rather than being in that bedroom actively engaged in that activity? That's how we grow. That's how we develop. That's how we become more independent. We need to always remember, less is more. Good support staff know that. Less is more. What does that mean? Less is more. It means simply assisting people only when necessary is the most effective support. Less is more. We do no more than what is needed to allow that person to be an active participant in the activity. Less is more. It sounds easy, but it's a very challenging concept because there's something within us, perhaps, that compels us, draws us to do for people. And as long as that compulsion takes hold, that individual is less likely to be emancipated. Freed. Freed from what? Freed from the intrusion of us having to be in their space, in their face, and doing for them. We're teachers, not direct care staff. Everyday life, what is it about? It looks perhaps different for all of us, but life's activities promote skills, relationships, and interest. Do individuals who you support participate in these kind of activities? And you all know, how long is the list? The list isn't, an infinite list. I would ask you this question. We can make it simple. Do the individuals you support participate in cleaning the lenses to their glasses, even though they don't have a pincer grasp? Do you know how to support people in doing it? By the way, to know how to clean the lenses to your glasses, is that important? Of course. It's frequently the smaller things in life that make the greatest contribution to a quality of life. But you look at the, I look at this right there, pumping the gas. Do you know that there are residences that I go to where vans are used to transport people? Maybe a supported living arrangement, a group home. And you know that there are people who live in those residences who have never even been given the opportunity to pump the gas? Do you realize how dangerous that is? Not giving people that opportunity? For many of us, we even extend those opportunities to our small children. Why? Because we want them to understand the danger of gas fumes. You can't keep people safe by denying them a life. You can't keep people safe by denying them a life. There's a reason that I'm saying that. Because frequently, you hear the excuse of, we can't allow them to do this, we can't allow them to do that because of concerns of people's safety. The bottom line is, we keep people safe by teaching them how to be safe. Isn't that what we do with people in our life who we care about? Here's the question: how can individuals who require pervasive, meaning a lot of support, participate in these activities? How do you get people who are significantly intellectually challenged, physically limited, to support in all their life's activities? And I want to emphasize something. The operative word is all of life's activities. People should not have to prove themselves to have a reasonable life. There should not have to be a test that one needs to pass in order to prove themselves that they can participate in these type of life activities. In residences, in homes, I have an expectation that individuals should be encouraged to engage in 20 to 22 hours a week of home chores. And some people say, holy mackerel, Tom, that's a lot. But if you and I assess our own lives, and you look at how much time you spent in buying your groceries, preparing your meals, and doing your laundry, and cleaning your house, and mowing your yard, and washing your car, and paying your bills, and the list goes on. I know some of you are very wealthy, and you have your own housekeepers, and landscapers, and accountants, and cooks, but for the rest of us, I think many of us spend 20 to 22 hours a week in home chores. A comprehensive home chore schedule is essential. When I go to day programs, the same concept applies. I walk into a day program. What is the schedule for maintaining that room? Do we have somebody assigned to wash the windows, the people who are in there? That's part of being in the room. Are people involved in, is it scheduled for who is going to mop and clean the floor and clean the cabinets and help take care of that room that they're in? It is through those meaningful activities that people grow, develop, and become more independent. Since I use the word, let me give you the definition that I use for the word meaningful. Here's the definition. If the person you have doing it wasn't doing it, you'd have to hire somebody to do it. That's meaningful. And certainly when I go into environments where people are sitting around stacking blocks, putting pegs in boards and beads on strings, and I don't mean for making jewelry, what kind of meaning does that have? When was the last time you picked up the newspaper, looked in the classified section of the newspaper, and found an ad for 2 professional peggers? We need 2 professional peggers here. Well, those kind of things have no meaning. And activities that have no meaning have no dignity. It's not the way that you and I would wish to be treated. So the concept is, the phrase is, do with. That's the operative phrase. Do with. Involve those you support in all their life activities. Historically, it used to be do for, right? Do for. We bathed people, dressed people, fed people, do for. Then we changed models, and then it used to be do to, because we saw them as broken and needing to be fixed, and we did to them. And now the operative phrase is do with. Participate as an equal. Be a role model to the person in the activity, to whatever extent the activity will allow. The expectation is, if we're involved in some table kind of activity, a leisure pursuit, we need to be sitting there with them, unless I have to stand up in order to physically assist somebody with that activity. We need to participate as equals in the activity. When I say do with, when you leave here, hopefully you now all understand that you will never take people to the movies again. If you've been doing that, you will stop doing that. You will not take people bowling. You will not take people to church. And hopefully that is clear. Sometimes I do these trainings, I talk about the importance of doing with, and people walk out and they said, we're going to take them to the movies. And you think, how could that person been in the session and heard what I was talking about? When I hear somebody say we're going to take them to the movies, by the way, it is clear to me who is going to be carrying the money. If you're going to take them to the movies, it's almost always the staff that's going to be carrying the money. It's clear to me who's going to be standing in line and buying the tickets. Probably the staff is going to be in line buying the tickets while 3 or 4 people who they support are off to the side waiting for the staff to get them the tickets. It's clear to me who's going to be handing the ticket to the ticket taker, who's going to be purchasing the refreshments, and who's going to be selecting the seats. And if the staff is going to be doing that, my response is don't go. Don't waste the money. Don't waste the time. The point of going to the movies is not just the enjoyment of seeing what is on the screen. It's the opportunities that we gain through the steps that need to be followed to see the movie. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. Community integration has little and no value. You want fighting words? Those are fighting words. I'm going to say it again. Community integration has little to no value. What has value? Community participation. Just taking somebody to the movies is integration. I'm there with other people. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. But community participation implies that the individual is an active participant in all steps of that activity. It's a huge difference. I do a lot of coaching, on-site training with staff, and not too long ago I was with some staff who were taking people bowling, which, by the way, I'm using the right words. They were taking them bowling. And there were 5 or 6 folks the staff were with. Some used wheelchairs, some not. Several of the people, their speech was very hard to understand, and several couldn't speak at all. And the staff walked up to the counter at the bowling alley where the bowling shoes were rented, and I'm standing next to the staff, and the staff says, 10 narrow, 12 wide, 8 medium, 9 wide. Ma'am, excuse me, how many pairs of shoes are you wearing? Oh, Tom, those shoes are not for me. Those shoes are for them. Well, why are you getting the shoes for them? Oh, Tom, they can't speak. Would you know what to do? What do people do who are mute? Why wouldn't that staff provide these men and women with index cards with their shoe size on it? Go up to the counter with them and encourage them to hand the card with their shoe size to the person on the other side of the counter. How much does that cost? Whose permission do we need? What policies would be violated? And I want to say that again. When we talk about supported routines and assisting people to be active participants in their life, let's go back to the question. How much money does it cost? Whose permission do you need? And what policies would be violated? It's important that we recognize the answer to that question, because the answer is it tends not to cost any more. You don't need anyone's permission, and certainly would not violate policy or procedure. I would not knowingly stand up here and suggest that you do anything that would violate policy or procedure. When I'm in residences, I sometimes hear staff say, "It's my job. It's my job." Well, what does that look like? It's my job. It looks like we're the 3 staffums. Have you ever heard of the 3 staffums? You know, where they have 3 shifts, the 3 staffums. It sort of looks like this. First, we have the 3rd shift, who says, I wake them, toilet them, and dress them. That's my job. Then we have the 1st shift, who says, I feed them and met them. And then we have the 2nd shift, who says, I bed them. My question is, where's the 4th? How about give them a life? Many times we take people's life activities and assign them to people who are shift staff, and they see themselves as the responsible party for making those things happen, not to support the person in those aspects of their life. And unfortunately, sometimes I hear staff say, it's not my job. Supported routines? Oh, they don't pay me enough money to do that silly stuff. Supported routines. And I understand there are challenges in making supported routines happen. I've carried around with me for many years. Now watch, I may not be able to find it now. Ah, here it is. These index cards, I write everything down. Matter of fact, you can see I already have some stuff written down here about some of you in this room. If you feel paranoid, I understand why you do. You know, I'm always writing stuff down. And people have come up to me, or they've mentioned in sessions like this, the reasons why they don't involve people in their life. And I've made note of those reasons. And I want to share some of them with you. Here are some reasons why we deny active participation in people's lives. Number 1, there's never a legitimate reason why dependency is nurtured. There's never a legitimate reason why dependency should be nurtured. And this is logical enough, right? It's just easier to do it ourselves. You know what my response is? Absolutely right. It is easier to do it ourselves. But we will be doing it ourselves for an eternity if we never give people an opportunity to be active participants in their life. Next reason, staff do not perceive themselves as teachers. Matter of fact, there are some staff that work at agencies and they refer to the staff as direct care staff. You pick up the job description and there's nothing even in the job description that suggests that they're teachers, instructors, and allies, coaches, mentors. They would like to be, but they don't perceive themselves that way. Perhaps there are some people who are drawn to this field because of their codependent personalities. Perhaps they are enablers. It makes it very difficult. I'm going to share something with you now. I do this with some degree of hesitancy, but it needs to be said. I'm in a residence. I'm in a day program room. I'm in a sheltered employment program. I don't care what the venue is. It doesn't make any difference. And there's an individual sitting at the table. It's lunchtime. He has a soda bottle trying to get the cap off, which is not easy. And I'm going to first make my comments to women, then gentlemen, you will have your moment here. The individual is sitting there trying to get the cap off. The staff is several feet away. She sees him struggle to get the cap off the soda bottle. What's her response? Here I come to save the day. Oh, can I take the soda bottle? Here, I'll take the cap off for you. Let me pour the soda into the glass. Here, can I bring it to your lips? Would you like for me to swallow for you too? Here I come to save the day. I want to make a comment. This is not intended to be funny. And again, gentlemen, you will have your moment. If the female staff member who I just described has spent the last 7 years picking up her husband's underwear, what's going to happen when she comes into this environment and sees that man struggle to try to get the cap off the soda bottle? If it's a male staff who has an 18-year-old son who just received his 4th speeding ticket, and his pickup truck is in the impound, and dad's trying to figure out how he's going to come up with the $250 to get his son's pickup truck out of the impound, what's going to happen when he comes into this environment and sees that individual struggle to get the cap off the soda bottle? Rather than empower, rather than to teach, rather than to assist, rather than instruct, here, let me show you how to do it. Put your hand this way. Pick up the napkin. I know your hand moves. I'll do it for you. That requires a conscious awareness on our behalf, an understanding that we can become the enabler unwittingly. Staff lack the clinical skills to empower. There's many staff who want people to be involved in supported routines. They see themselves as instructors. They want to teach. They want people to be emancipated. They don't have the skills. They don't know how to use graduated guidance and fading and shaping and successive approximations. They'd like to. They don't know how. And sometimes the lack of supported routines is a reflection that some staff believe that there are some individuals who they support who cannot grow, they cannot become more independent. And that belief in and of itself becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you cannot grow, you cannot become more independent, why should I engage you in this activity? Why should I assist you if there is no potential? And by the way, there's a phrase that's sometimes used. You ever heard someone say he has the capacity of a 4-year-old? He has the capacity of a 7-year-old. The word capacity has little meaning. It is a word that should only be used to ascribe what a bucket holds. The human mind has no capacity. If I were to ask you, have any of you in this room reached your capacity? Not one of you would raise your hand. And what do you do when someone has reached this so-called capacity? Shoot them? People can grow, develop, and become more independent. The only limitation that exists with regard to what one can learn is determined by the lack of our own skill, our competence, the technology that we have available, the resources that we are willing to expend to allow that person to grow. I see miracles happen every day, when I see staff whose competence and brilliance in supporting people make those miracles happen. And the organization does not embrace supported routines. There are organizations that I train at, staff I'm involved with, where the organization is not focused on supported routines. They are a care for mentality, do for mentality organization. And another reason why some staff do not allow people to engage in supported routines, and here is a very common response: it's dangerous. It's dangerous. We must dispel that. That's why they're not allowed to pour the coffee. Oh, it's dangerous. Well, maybe it is if the individual uses a glass coffee carafe. Maybe he needs a pump pot so it's not so dangerous. Maybe he ought to be using one of those thermal pots that's made out of plastic so you don't have to deal with the glass. Maybe it needs to be the kind of coffee pot that only brews 1 cup at a time and he can pick it up. I don't know what we need to do, but whatever it is, we need to come up with creative solutions and alternatives to allow people to engage in these life activities. Oh, we can't allow them to use the stove. It's dangerous. Well, there's perhaps many people who I'm not going to give them the opportunity to stick their hands in a 450-degree oven to pull out a cake. But can the individual be with me and open the oven and I take out the cake? The guideline is take what you can get closest to what you want. Remember it. Take what you can get closest to what you want. There may be many valid, many good reasons why I don't want an individual to actively participate in all aspects of the activity. But that should not be used as the excuse why they can't participate in any aspect of the activity. Take what you can get closest to what you want. Start low. Go slow. And, we can't allow them to pump the gas, and I shared that one with you earlier. Well, perhaps I'm uneasy because his behavior is very unpredictable and he might take the gas nozzle and pull it out and spray gas over. Well, then for Pete's sake, I'm not going to allow him to do that part of it. Could I have him take the credit card and put it inside the gas machine? Yes. Could I have him take the cap off the gas tank? Probably. Could I have him take the handle that initiates the gas pumping and pull that up? Probably. I may not want his hand on the handle, depending upon the history of that individual's behavior. What about changing a light bulb? Something as simple as that. There are people who don't have the ability, perhaps because of their cerebral palsy, to stand on a ladder. That shouldn't stand in their way of changing a light bulb. Why can't we assist the individual in getting it out of the closet? Coming over to where the light fixture is. And you as a staff or someone who supports them gets on the ladder and they hand you the new light bulb, you hand them the old, and they put it in the corrugated container and then throw it away. You see, sometimes people's involvement in life activities must be intermittent. It may not be able to be continuous. It's no different than I would expect people to roll the wheels or turn the wheels of their wheelchair to get from point A to point B. I would expect that, especially if the person has difficulty. Every reason that we give why we shouldn't, what did we say, is the reason why we should. But if it takes them 20 minutes to get from this door to that door, that may not be reasonable. So my expectation will be is I will have you turn the wheels 2 or 3 turns at the beginning. I will assist you the rest of the way, and you'll complete it by turning 2 or 3 turns right before we get to our destination. You get the individual involved to the fullest extent possible. What about slicing a cucumber? I may not feel comfortable in handing somebody the knife, and I know you folks get people involved in food preparation kind of activities here, and I may not be comfortable in handing them a paring knife based upon history of that particular individual and having them hold the cucumber. But are there other devices that could be used other than a sharp paring knife that they could use to slice that cucumber that may not pose that danger? Could I have them perhaps hold the cucumber and I hold the knife? Could I put the knife in their hand and use graduated guidance and put my hand over their hand and have them do it? Are there devices that would hold the cucumber in place without putting their hand on the cucumber and perhaps causing concern that they might cut their hand? The answer to all those questions is yes. Or to mow the grass. Just a quick story for you in terms of mowing the grass. I was involved with an agency a while back in southern part of the United States, and I was doing some on-site coaching. And I go up to the house, and I wasn't supposed to be doing coaching there. I had to pick up some papers inside the home, and there were 4 or 5 folks on the lawn in front of the home. It was the fall of the year and leaves all over the place. All 4 folks, 5 folks used wheelchairs. And the staff was out in front talking to these folks and says, we need to be raking up all the leaves. And I'm thinking, how in the world are they going to do that? Most of these folks could hardly move their arms. I'm in the home 10 or 15 minutes and I come back outside. And one of the folks who uses a power chair, the staff had taken a gas-operated leaf blower, put it on the back of his power chair, and the individual's going up and down the lawn like this. You should have seen the look on his face. It was that look that said, I am somebody. I am somebody. When we give folks an opportunity to be active participants in a life of meaning and value, it alters how they see themselves. And here is a great challenge, if you will. It's a test for supported routines. It could be one that you could use in a day program room. It could be one that you could use in the home. If the doorbell rings in the middle of the evening meal, who goes to the door to answer the door? This is a residence where 7, 8 people reside. Most of the people use wheelchairs. Most of them have significant physical and intellectual limitations. They're right in the middle of dinner and the doorbell rings. Who answers the door? If the answer is staff, it's clear They do not embrace the concept of supported routines. I'm in a day program room. People are eating breakfast. The door to the room is closed. They're all right in the middle of breakfast. Someone knocks on the door in the day program room. Who answers the door? By the way, at your home, when you're eating dinner and someone knocks at the door, who answers your door? Your butler, James? It's all part of life. For many of the men and women we support, they can't risk getting up to go answer the door. Their histories are such that when they left their food, the guy next to them took it. You know, they turned their head and it was gone. Now we have to give people an opportunity to understand your food will be there when you get back. Every reason that we give why we shouldn't is a justification for doing it. Another reason that is given why we don't involve people in all their life's routines is that there's not enough time. And I can look at this in terms of where people live from a residential standpoint to assure that people participate in their life activities. They may have to get up earlier. You know, sometimes I have a lot to do and I don't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but in order to accomplish my day's task, that's what I need to do. Do you know that there are people with cerebral palsy of normal intellect who get up at 4:30 in the morning? It might be a woman who spends an hour rolling around on her bed trying to get her skirt on, or a man, you know, rolling around trying to get his shirt on just so that they can achieve independence in their life. People may have to get up earlier. Some people may have to go to bed later. One may have to decrease their leisure activities. My wife and I moved not too long ago, and there were many, many weekends that we didn't have really leisure activities. We were spending our time unpacking. I didn't want to do that. I had a little option. Sometimes people can only intermittently participate, as we just talked about. You know, just get involved in some aspects of the activity. Sometimes people must be a passive participant. Remember, we were talking about making the bed? Remember the gentleman who was the passive participant? He was just sitting there, watching, looking. And what was I doing? I was thinking out loud. Got the concept? Talk, 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 talk. You know, there's a tendency that when we interact with people who do not speak, they extinguish our verbalizations. So sometimes the passive participation may be nothing more than just talking to the individual. That's important. Again, goes back to facilitating bonding, making a connection. When we value people, we talk with them. And is lack of time an explanation or an excuse? I want to shift a little bit of a topic here, as we only have a few minutes left. And I want to share with you 10 ways to help people think. 10 specific things you might consider to help people to be active participants in their life. And here we go. Number one, teach, don't correct. Teach. It's not a statement like, well, how many times do I have to show you how to do this? Or, can't you do that right? Unfortunately, I will say this, every one of you in this room, there is no exception, every one of you has had a child or has been one. Is that true for everyone in the room? Everyone in this room has had a child or has been one? Okay, good. Well, what's the implications of that? The implications are, as either have been the recipient of child rearing practices or the giver of them, we are predisposed to certain ways of interacting with people. And because many of us have been the recipient of childhood practices where someone has told us how many times do I have to show you how to do that or don't do it that way, we come into situations as support staff and some of those behaviors rear their ugly head. Teach, don't correct. 2, teach continuously. Every moment is a teachable moment. It can only happen if the individual is an active participant with you. But people are learning continuously. When you hear someone say it's now time for your program, well, what does that mean? We all learn. I would hazard to say, and I have no way of proving this, that probably 90% of everything that we know came about through our participation in meaningful life activities. They were not a result of the formal educational process. Formal education probably was the thing that greased the wheel that facilitates our opportunity to grow from our life experiences. But teach continually. Teach concretely. in that person's zone, in their sphere, trying to teach somebody pedestrian skills with flashcards in the dining room or a day program room won't cut it. Trying to teach somebody money management skills in a day program room or a dining room in their home using Monopoly money won't cut it. The individuals who we support, their learning needs to be in the location at the time the skill would normally be exercised, in place, just-in-time learning. We need to concretize it. We all remember the days when they used to have these rooms called ADL rooms, right? Activities of Daily Living rooms. And they'd bring people into one of these bedrooms and teach them how to make a bed. The person learned to make a bed, and you'd follow them home, and there was always a staff member in their home who was making their bed. Teach the skill in the environment where you want it exercised. Number 4, input information using a multi-sensory approach. Give people an opportunity to feel it, smell it, taste it. It's interesting when people are not given those kinds of opportunities. Many agencies have what are called sensory stimulation rooms. You ever seen those things where they have lights strung all over the place, blinging off and on, throwing people into seizures, right? And they have mirrors on the ceiling. And I've always wondered, how does that help people grow? How does that help them become more independent? You know, if people have an opportunity to put their hands in the sink and feel the dish soap and wash the dishes and touch the feathers on the duster and feel the vibrations on the vacuum cleaner, do we really need such kind of sensory stimulation rooms? And by the way, why would they call it a sensory stimulation room? When you walk in there, everybody's sleeping. What's so stimulating about that? And number 5, don't be their frontal lobe. This is an important tool. Don't give individuals more information than they need in order to complete the task. Somebody gets up from the table and their dirty dishes are there, or a napkin that they used is there. Rather than saying is, Bob, can you please take your napkin and throw it in the wastebasket? Far more effective to say, Bob, did you forget something? Bob doesn't quite get it. So now we point to the table. Bob, did you forget something? Bob still doesn't get it. Bob, come here a moment. Did you forget? Ah, he got it. Don't be people's frontal lobe. I think in many cases the lack of initiative seen in some of the folks who we support, the lack of their independence is more a function of learned helplessness than a reflection of neurological impairment. And number 6, provide people with choices. Give them options at any time that you can. It's sad, and when I'm in residences, do you know that there are many people that are not even given the option with respect to what pillow their head lays on in their bed? People who live at places and no one even gives them an option for choosing the soap that they use. You know, how difficult would it be to take a bar of soap, put it under somebody's nose? You know, it's a bar of Irish Spring and watch their facial expression even though they cannot speak. And then you take a bar of Dial and put it under their nose and you see, gee, they seem to like the Dial a lot more than the Irish Spring. Isn't that the way you and I would want to be treated? Give people choices. Give them options. Number 7, don't over-prompt. Not dissimilar to being people's frontal lobe. Don't over-prompt. Number 8, have people self-evaluate. Have them assess how they can solve the problem. Have them assess what the struggle is that they're having in their interaction with somebody else. She hit me, she hit me. Well, why did she hit you? Oh, you called her a dirty name. Why'd you call her a dirty name? Oh, because she threw a shoe at you. What could you have done? Oh, you could have come and talked to me. Number 9, praise thinking as well as accomplishments. Celebrate the efforts made by the people who you support. Let them know that they are valued. You did a good job. Celebrate. Heartfelt, sincere, emotive, affective. Celebrate. And number 10, have the people you support teach others. Have them teach others. The individual that does a great job, you know, in baking cookies, have him teach others. The individual that does a great job in making his bed, have him teach others. So with that, I want to leave you with a final thought, and it is this. How can you have a life if you don't participate in it? Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye. Thank you.